Okay, so this is the create relationship settings screen, and this is probably the most important part when it comes to actually customizing the Renderdraw app. So when we created this, we envisioned it being used across all objects within Salesforce, regardless of what cloud you're utilizing or any certain add-ons you want to have, or maybe even another App Exchange app you want to kind of customize and augment it with 3D drawings. So that was kind of the intention behind it. For this screen, really what we're going to be doing is showing you how to basically make a lookup between a Renderdraw setting and how that simple rendering component actually is displayed on that component and what fields it's going to be looking to within that underlying object in Salesforce in order to go out and reach to the proper files on your file server. So going kind of from top to bottom here, we're going to take a look at every individual field within this relationship creation settings. Starting from the top, this is the label that you're going to be creating for this underlying setting that we're making. So with the possibility of having hundreds of thousands of different objects within Salesforce, you might want to create a relationship for each one of those. This is just a unique identifier for that relationship setting that we're creating right now. The second one is the Renderdraw settings. So this is the Renderdraw setting that was set up prior to this step. We do include a single Renderdraw setting with the beginning of the install of this application. But if you wanted to create additional Renderdraw settings to potentially go to different base URLs or for whatever reason you wanted to utilize different controls or lights, this would be where you would make that selection. This is probably the more important piece, the entity of the relationship. So by entity of relationship, we're talking about objects within Salesforce. Basically, in order to build out this URL, which would be the destination URL of where we'd be pulling that object file or the 3D rendering file, we traditionally map that to underlying objects within Salesforce. So if you think about how you traditionally use Salesforce as an administrator, you're going to have different add-ins or different App Exchange products that are going to bring in different objects within Salesforce. What we want to be able to do here is actually point to that different object. So when we make a selection, you can see all of the objects that are in this org right now. Once we point to it, we want to be able to start mapping from fields on that object to how we're actually going to go and pull this information out of the underlying file server. So if we're using like relationship of document, for instance, the next two files or the next two inputs are based off of the rendering path. So taking a look at this document over here, this base URL was actually part of the Renderdraw setting. So that can be reused over and over again. The rendering path is defined here, either if you want to map to an individual attribute within the object of the Salesforce system through a field, or if you want to do a string override. So if you're doing something like renderings all the time, you can put that in here for this underlying relationship. If that, for instance, if the relationship actually dictates what the path is, you wanted to put in documents here, so like documents slash, and then your file name comes next, that's totally fine. That's what the purpose of this is for. So basically what we're doing is composing a URL that we can call on your remote file server and bring back the results and render it in real time. So the field for rendering file name, we just covered these two. Those are the paths. Field for rendering file name is actually going to be this portion right here. So which field on the object actually represents the object name within your file system. So in our example here, item123.obj is going to be a file name. That's going to be mapped right now. We can take a look at these drop downs. These are all the fields within the file or the document object. Let's say we wanted to utilize URL, so we could select that. Now, resource path, that's the next piece that's represented in purple box here. That's actually if you have any additional skins or textures that come rendered or referenced by the OBJ, STL, or GLTF files. So if that's not in the same actual directory and you have a different subdirectory for those skins, we would put those represented there on the resource path. Then we would push save, and from there we would have a relationship in that next time we go and add our Lightning component to a document object type within Salesforce on the layout, it would be utilizing the URL scheme that we just built up based off of the files that we're mapping to. So effectively, in order to use this on, let's say, custom objects or document objects here, basically we would create a relationship for each one of those objects first, and then from there we would add the component onto the layout and you'd view that natively.